Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome everyone. Today I will discuss you the concept of utility analysis. This is module 4, lecture 1 of this series. Utility means when we consume something or use something that will gives us some satisfaction, happiness. That is the utility. After completion of this module, you will be able to learn the concept of utility briefly, the types of utility, measurement of utility. Cardinal measurement, we will measure the utility by dividing two parts. One is the cardinal utility approach and ordinal approach. Ordinal utility approach and relationship between marginal utility and total utility. Now, utility means practical use of a product. The value in use of product. When we purchase something, then we have to pay something, which is the exchange value, which is called price. But when we use that product, we consume that product, that is the practical use of product, which is called as value in use. Value in use means the utility. The value in use means utility, or wants satisfying power of a commodity called utility. Every commodity has some practical use that will satisfy our wants, and that is called utility. The concept of utility purely subjective. Subjective here we mean psychological satisfaction. Means it is related with the mental satisfaction of the person. Utility means satisfaction obtained from the consumption of product and services by the consumer. When consumer consumes or use the services, he feel satisfied, and that satisfaction obtained from the product is called utility. The benefit or satisfaction that a person gets from the consumption of a good or services is called utility. For example, you need a glass of water, and after drinking that glass of water, you feel some satisfaction. That satisfaction called the utility of water. You have purchased a car, and after purchasing that car, you feel happy, and that happiness is the utility of that product. Utility is the satisfaction obtained from good or services. Simple. According to Houghton, the utility is a quantity of good that satisfy our want. The quantity, the quality of a good which satisfy our want, we can say this is the utility of this product. Let us discuss the features of the utility one by one. Utility has the following features. Number 1, utility is subjective. I have already explained. Subjective means the psychological satisfaction, which is related with the psychology, because it deals with the mental satisfaction of a man It is the psychological satisfaction as feeling of the consumer. Hence, it is internal, not external. We can just feel that yes, I have taken this or consume this commodity, and after this, I have some satisfaction. And that satisfaction is related with the mental of a person, mind of this vary person to person. Utility is relative. Utility of a commodity never remains same. It varies across the time and across the place. Even at the same time, the same product can give different utility. Even it varies from a person to person and from time to time or place to place for the same individual. Again, a same commodity can give different utility to different person. Time to time means, for example, air conditioner is very important in the summer, but winter that products have no use. But this, if the AC is important in summer in the Delhi or maybe Chandigarh, but at the same time, if you will change the place, for example, Shimla or some hill station, maybe that product is useless. So it is never remain same, even the across the time and place. Utility is not essentially useful. A commodity having the utility need not be useful for all. For example, liquor and cigarette are not useful, but because of these things satisfying the want of an individual, then they have the utility for him or them. But those who are not using these products, the utility of these products are useless for them. But it is not necessarily that utility should be useful for all. Next, utility is unmeasurable. Although Marshall says that we can measure in terms of numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4 cardinal measurement is possible. Means when you drink a glass of water, when you purchase something, when you consume something, when you use something, that will gives you the satisfaction which can be expressed in terms of numbers. After drinking of a glass of water, you can, for example, you feel that yes, I have the satisfaction equal to 10. Although, so this measured in terms of money or price is the marginal utility analysis given by the Marshall. Whereas Hicks and Allen or Slutsky, utility can be measured in terms of, not in terms of numbers, but it can just ranked. We can give them a rank. We can say that yes, the first glass of water gives me satisfaction more as compared to the second glass of water. Unmeasurable means exact measurement is not possible of this utility. We can just feel the utility. The same product can give different utility to the different person. Utility is abstract. Abstract in a sense as it cannot be touched. It can just felt. For example, like teaching of a teacher, advice of a lawyer, can neither be seen nor be touched, and hence it is just an abstract. Next, utility and pleasure. Although when we consume some product or purchase something product or use the product, that will gives you happiness or pleasure, but it is not necessary always that a commodity possessing utility gives you the pleasure. Although, for example, an injection possesses utility to an individual, however, it gives him or her physical pain, but hence utility and pleasure is unrelated because of that time the need of that injection. So we cannot say that utility always gives the pleasure or happiness. The medicine, bitter medicine. So next is independent utility. Utility has nothing to do with the commodity, other commodities. The utility of every product is independent. Now let us discuss the types of utility. There are various types. In economics, the term utility is used to denote the satisfaction or welfare. We have discussed right now. The term utility is used to denote the satisfaction and welfare in economics or happiness. And utility derived from the good are different form, such as there are various types or form of utility. Form utility, place utility, time utility, service utility. Let us discuss one by one all these types of form of utility. First, the form utility. Form is defined as a process that increases the value of a product to the consumer by making changes or altering its physical appearance. When you create the value in a product, when you change the physical appearance of the product, when a person make alter in a commodity, that is called form utility. The utility created by changing the shape, size, color of a particular product is called form utility. For example, making furniture out of wood. And that will increase the utility of wood, which is called as form utility. When you change the shape of a product, when you change the color of the product or size of the product according to the requirement of a consumer, that called form utility. You have changed the basic form of that utility, that product, which is called as the form utility. Creation of it, that utility of the product. Next is place utility. Is a utility created by changing the place of a particular commodity. Sand in the bank of river, no use, but when you change that place from that bank to a particular, the construction place, that has become more useful. For example, bringing the crops from farm to the market, that will increase the value of that product, or to the place of consumption, for the bringing crops from the farms to market or to the place for consumption, is an example of creation of place utility. Place utility means when anybody will change the place of the product where it is required, you will bring that product the place where consumers or the need of that product. That means it is the place utility. You are creating the utility which is called as the place utility. Place utility refers primarily to making goods or services physically available or accessible to the potential consumer or customers. Where there is a potential customers, where there is a need of that product, when you will change the place of good or services and physically available to them. This is called as place utility. Time utility. Time utility is created by providing the easy available of goods or services at the time when the consumer need or want it. Utility is created by changing time is called time utility. For example, demand of woolen cloth is more during the winter as compared to the demand in summer. So when you provide these woolen clothes in the summer as compared, in the winter as compared to summer, then it is called time utility. Now, service utility. Service utility is the utility created by providing the service to the customer or someone. Such services are generally provided by professional in the society to other people of the society. When anybody will provide services to the people of the society, this is called as the service utility. For example, the knowledge given by teacher to his or her student is a service utility, or treatment given by doctor to his or her patient is called service utility. So these are some important measures of a form, not measure, I'm sorry. This is the form of utility. Now let us discuss the measurement of utility. There are two approaches to measure the utility in economics. One is cardinal utility approach and second one ordinal utility approach. Cardinal utility approach basically developed by Marshall approach. We'll discuss in terms of cardinal means utility can be measured in terms of number. Cardinal numbers, by giving them numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 600, 200, etc. Where ordinal utility approach given by Hicks, here Hicks says then that utility cannot be expressed in terms of number, but we can just rank the utility. We can just differentiate. So let us discuss one by one these two important approaches. One is the cardinal utility approach and second one ordinal utility approach. Cardinal utility approach is the utility wherein the satisfaction derived from the consumer from the consumption of goods or services can be measured numerically. The satisfaction, when the satisfaction can be measured in numerically like 1, 2, 3 is called cardinal utility. The numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 are cardinal numbers. For example, the number 2 is twice in the size of 1. 2 is the twice in the size of 1. Now let us discuss more about this cardinal approach. Cardinal approach is based on Martial school of thought. Martian school of thought. Marshall, who has given the concept of utility in terms of the cardinal measurement. It has come out with a unit called util to measure the utility. According to him, utility can be measured in a unit, and that unit called util. To measure utility, the measurement of utility is util. UTIL, util. Util reveals, expressed, how much of money a consumer is willing to pay for a given unit of a product. This was the cardinal approach. There are two laws we'll discuss in the coming lecture. Under this approach, law of diminishing marginal utility and law of equi-marginal utility. Law of diminishing marginal utility means as more and more when you consume a unit of a product, the marginal utility start diminishing. Marginal we mean additional utility. Whereas equi-marginal utility means equal satisfaction. So we'll discuss these utility, the laws of utility in next lecture. Right now we'll focus on the next ordinal utility approach. The numbers first, second, third, fourth are ordinal numbers. Here we rank. We'll give some numbers. This is the first rank, second rank, third rank, fourth rank, ordinal numbers. These ordinal numbers are just ranked or ordered. The ranking does not explain the actual size relation of the numbers. The ranking does not explain the actual size relation of the number. This is very important. The second one might or might not be twice as big as the first one. Whereas in case of cardinal measurement, we have discussed that one, when we talk about the 2, it means 2 is the twice than 1. But here, second one might or might not be twice as big as the first one. This approach is based on the view that utility cannot be measured in numbers, but it can just be ranked in order to preferences. We can just give them preferences. Preference of the customer is based on the choice of the product available. Hicks and Allen used ordinal approach for analyzing the consumer behavior. Basically, both approaches, whether the cardinal or ordinal, both are to discuss, to analyze the consumer behavior of the consumer, how the consumer behave when he or she will purchase the commodity. This analysis is also known as the indifference curve analysis. We'll discuss in 5th module about the indifference curve analysis. Now, the utility, concept of utility based on some assumptions. In the last lecture, I have explained that assumptions are very important. Every concept of economy based on some assumptions. So here we assume that consumers are rational. A rational consumer means the rational consumer is who measures, calculate, choose, compare the utility of different units of the various commodity and aims at the maximization of the utility. The person who will try to get, or he is keen to get maximum satisfaction from his given income when he consume a product. He has full knowledge of availability of commodities and their qualities. Next, consumer always prefer more quantity. Here we have to assume he knows exact price and various commodities, and their utility are influenced by the behavior of their price. We have also to assume that cardinal measurement is possible, diminishing marginal rate of substitution, utility are independent, marginal utility of money is constant. Even we can express the utility in terms of money, and the marginal utility of money is constant. Divisibility means commodity can be used as per the requirement. We can use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rupees as per the requirement. Utility can be measured in terms of money. So let us discuss the another important topic, that is total utility. Total utility can be defined as the amount of utility a person derives from the consumption of particular product in a given period of time. During a given period of time, when you consume the commodity 1, 2, 3, 4 commodity, and the total satisfaction derived from the consumption of the product is called total utility. Total utility is the amount of satisfaction obtained from entire consumption of a product. Entire consumption of a product. Total utility means total satisfaction. Utility means satisfaction, but total utility means total satisfaction obtained from the consumption of a particular product during a given period of time. The total utility is the total benefit, you can say, or welfare that a person gets from the consumption of a good or services during a given period of time. Total utility is generally increased with the increase of quantity consumed of a good or services. Means when you increase the consumption of product, it start increasing, but up to a certain limit, and after that it will be constant and maybe start decreasing. For example, when you consume a glass of water, so drink a glass of water, that will gives you the utility is equal to, for example, 10. But when you will drink second glass of water, that will not give equal satisfaction. First will give more satisfaction, second will give less satisfaction. Say 8, first 10, second 8, so it is equal to 10 plus 8, 18. When you take third glass of water, maybe it will gives you the satisfaction to 5. Then 18 plus 5, 23. And maybe fourth, there's no requirement. There's no need. This is the maximum point. And if you drink more glass of water, maybe that gives you negative effect, adverse effect. That is the negative margin utility. We'll discuss after this topic. To find the total utility, we can use the following formula, the basic utility formula. This is total utility is equal to MU1, MU2, MU3. MU means marginal utility 1. Margin utility means additional utility derived from the consumption of one extra unit of the commodity. This is the sum of marginal utility. Total utility is the sum of marginal utilities. Total utility is the sum of marginal utilities. We can explain the total utility with the help of this diagram. On x-axis we have quantity. X-axis we have quantity consumed. The y-axis total utility, and this TUX is the total utility curve, say, of X commodity. This TU is the total utility curve, say, X product. This shows that as you consume more and more unit of the quantity, the total utility increasing simultaneously. But up to here, up to a certain limit, up to here, when you consume the commodity up to here, it will gives you, this is the maximum total utility, and after this point it start decreasing. After this point it start decreasing. So the total utility will increase with the increase of quantity consumed by a person, but up to a certain limit, and after that it start maybe decreasing. But total utility cannot be negative, it cannot be zero. Whereas we'll discuss in case of marginal utility, it can be negative, it can be zero. The concept next is the concept of marginal utility. Marginal utility was put forward by the economist Jevons. It is called additional utility. Marginal utility means additional utility. Marginal utility can be defined as the increase in total utility that results from a unit increase in consumption. When you consume more unit of the product, one more maybe one less, and as a result there is an addition in the total utility. That is called marginal utility. Marginal utility is the additional utility a person receives from the consuming of an additional unit of a good. Now, marginal utility is the change in total utility obtained by the consuming of one additional marginal unit of a good or service. It can be described the change in utility from consuming one more or less unit of a good or service. Marginal utility is the change in total utility due to change in quantity. This is the formula. Change in total utility divided by change in quantity is the marginal utility. Marginal utility can be zero, it can be positive, it can be negative. Three types: positive margin utility, zero margin utility, and negative margin utility. Positive if the consuming additional unit of a commodity, if consumer by consuming additional unit of the commodity, total utility goes on increasing, then marginal utility of these unit will be positive. When you consuming a unit of the product and the total utility is still increasing, it means marginal utility is positive. When there is no need of the product which you are consuming, it means the marginal utility is zero. Zero margin utility if the consumption of an additional unit of the commodity cause no change in the total utility, marginal utility of additional unit is zero. Negative margin utility if the consumption of an additional unit of the commodity cause fall in the total utility in terms of marginal utility of these units, we can call negative utility. Means when the total utility start decreasing, the marginal utility of a product will be negative. When the consumption of additional unit of a commodity the total utility start decreasing, it means the marginal utility is the negative. Let us see this with the help of this diagram. Here, positive utility. X-axis we have quantity, y we have margin utility, and this curve shows the downward sloping. Here Positive margin utility means the total utility is increasing, and when the total utility will be maximum, the margin utility will be zero. When total utility start decreasing, margin utility will be negative. Zero when total utility will be maximum. Negative when total utility start decreasing, it means margin utility is negative. Positive when the total utility is still increasing by consuming the more and more unit of the product. Let us discuss the relationship between margin utility and total utility. We are consuming, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 unit of the product. The total utility is increasing 5, 8, 10, and then 10, then 9, then 7. This is the maximum. Marginal utility is the change in total utility due to change in quantity. When 1 to 2, then 5 to 8. 0 to 5, it means 5. 5 to 8, 3. 8 to 10, 2. 10 to 10, it means no, 0. Here this is 0. And when 10, again, when you consume fifth unit of the product, it means this is a negative marginal utility. And go on. Now, relationship between total utility and margin utility. I have already told you, this is the margin utility curve and this is total utility curve. Total utility curve will increase with the increase of quantity. The total utility is increased with the increase of this quantity of a product. When you consume more and more unit of the quantity, say Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, the total utility is increasing A to B to C to T, etc. But see, when you consume the first unit of the product, the marginal utility will be high, Q1. When you consume second unit of the quantity from Q1 to Q2, the total utility increase A to B, but margin utility will decrease M1 to M2. As you see from the help of this diagram, that this total utility is increasing, whereas marginal utility is decreasing. 2 to 3, total utility is C, whereas margin utility will be MU3. When you consume fourth unit of a product, the total utility is maximum. Total utility is maximum here, but margin utility here 0. When total utility is the maximum, margin utility is 0. When total utility is increasing, margin utility is positive. When total utility start decreasing with the successive unit of the product, the margin utility will be negative here. So 3 points important. 1, total utility is increasing and margin utility positive. When total utility is maximum, margin utility will be 0. When total utility start decreasing, margin utility will be negative. The total utility is the satisfaction received from the consuming a given total quantity of goods and services. Well, margin utility we have already discussed is the satisfaction gained from the consuming from quantity of goods and services. So hopefully you will be able to understand this concept. Now, summary. Utility we have discussed that refers to the total satisfaction. Total utility refers to the total satisfaction received from the consuming of goods and services. We have discussed in detail the features of utility, types or form of utility in detail. 2 approaches we have discussed. One is cardinal approach, ordinal approach. Cardinal means utility can be measured in terms of numbers, and this is given by Marshall. Ordinal means we can just rank the utility, we cannot measure in terms of number, given by Hicks. And lastly, we have also examined the total utility, margin utility, and their relationship between total utility and margin utility. With this, thank you very much.